Andrew, Paraag, thank you very much for sitting down with us this afternoon. Can I come to you first, Andrew? What was it about Rangers that attracted the consortium to the club?
There are many different things that attracted us, but I think I keep coming back to three. The first are the supporters themselves. The breadth of the fan base is incredible. Millions of supporters around the world, 600 supporter clubs. I think we sold over 400,000 kits recently in a year. And not just the breadth, but also the depth of the passion. Anytime you have a conversation with a supporter, you can just sort of feel the electricity emanating from them, their love for the club. So supporters would be the first thing. Second is this, Ibrox. It's our castle. It's an incredibly tough place to come and play as an opposing team, which gives us a competitive advantage. And then it's a magical place to come as a supporter. And the third are the competitions. Every year we have a chance to win the league, to win 2 cups, and to play in Europe. I think most clubs would be thrilled to have any one of those three, and at Rangers we get all 3 of those.
Just in terms of the role you will both take on at the club, can you both maybe tell us a little bit about your roles? Paraag, do you want to take this one first?
Sure, yes. I mean, with our group, we've got a lot of experience and expertise with professional sporting organizations. Myself personally, I've overseen 2 different turnarounds, one with the 49ers and then more recently with Leeds United. And to put it in simplest terms, it's just trying to take the blueprints of what we learned, what worked and what didn't work, and apply it here. And I think that we bring something a little unique to the table in that we know what it's supposed to look like. And the things that you need to do to build that right foundation to set the club up for sustained success, competitively on the pitch as well as commercially. And so it's really about bringing that same sporting and commercial expertise to this.
Paraag and I are very much partners in this, but we've been very careful not to put bright lines between roles, and that there'll be overlap. I'll obviously gravitate towards things that I know, which are going to be more on the business side. And as Paraag just touched on, he has a wealth of experience on the sporting side.
How does that sit in terms of the day-to-day running of the club?
The day-to-day running of the club is really done by Patrick and the executive team, overseen by the board. So the board's role is to determine the multi-year strategy, to choose our chief executive officer, which obviously we're thrilled to have Patrick. But then Patrick runs the club day-to-day, and we help and offer advice and counsel and discuss things. But the club very much has its own team that runs it day-to-day.
Just in terms of the aims for the club in the short term, what are the priorities here?
Pretty simple, is win. That's the short, medium, and long-term focus is to win. But as much as I don't have a lot of patience, it does require patience and discipline and building that right foundation, because ultimately what you're trying to do is make as many decisions that are right, more often right than wrong, stack as many of those decisions as you can, and ultimately in the long term you'll be successful. But as we all know, there's a lot of luck involved in this great sport, and so all you could do is set yourself up to put yourself in a position to be able to win that league title, to be able to win that cup. Which way the ball actually bounces is not in our control, but we'll control what we can control. And hopefully there'll be a lot of success in the near future.
In an earlier answer there, Andrew, you mentioned about the history of the club and what's already here. How important will that be to the group to sort of maintain the standards and culture that is here already? It's
incredibly important. It's one of the things that attracted us to the club, is the heritage and the history. And so our role will be to make sure that we maintain that and celebrate that while still moving the club forward to achieve our ambitions.
Just on Russell Martin as head coach, how did that appointment come about? It was a vigorous process, I think, to get him in as head coach.
It was a very exhaustive, comprehensive process, led by Patrick and Kev, very capably, and we're all very excited about him. Given his experience, being a former Ranger man himself, he understands the unique weight put on him. And it was referenced earlier about how long or short will the honeymoon period be. There's no such thing as a honeymoon period in football. The pressure is always there, every match to win. And he understands that, having been here, having been a successful manager. And really what I've found in my experience is that the really good managers, they not only know what works well for them, but they've also learned from different challenges they've had in their careers and learned what didn't work and how to adjust. And I feel like Russell's done a good job of that as well.
In terms of the investment into the men's playing squad, how much of the initial 20 million will be spent in that area?
We'll try to be transparent about a great many things at the club, but then we'll also be very opaque with other things, and this is one of those. So we are investing 20 million into the club by the end of the month, but it doesn't do us any good to talk about how much of that's going to go into the squad, what position, etc., because that just makes our job harder in the window.
And on the football department side of it, Kevin Thelwell and Dan Purdy have come in there too. How confident are you that they're the right people to take the club in the direction you want it to go?
You know, I've been fans of both of them from before I knew them for years. Just studying their work that they've done together, as well as through the interview process as we got to know them well. They think about things the way we like to think about things, looking at football decision making from an empirical data-based perspective, trying to really try to find any competitive edge they can in both the recruitment, procurement, and ultimately signing of players. And the fact that they work so well together as a team, the pairing with the two of them running the football side of our organization is something we're both very excited about.
In terms of the women's first team as well, the women's department, what's the vision for that side of the business?
We see nothing but upside there. As you know, the women's team had a great season with 2 cup wins and coming close to winning the treble. We think that we've barely scratched the surface of women's football. We've created a sub-panel of the board made up of Jean, Fraser, and Patrick to come up with a multi-year strategic plan, because again, I think we're just getting started in that area and I'm pretty excited about it.
We spoke about the short term as well at the start. You touched on medium, long term, it being to win. How much of it is about making this sustainable over the years too?
It is the priority, is trying to set this up so that every year we have a chance to compete for the league title, for the cups, for everything. And honestly, if Andrew and I are doing our jobs well, you won't hear from us much. We'll speak when we have something to say, but really we want our actions to speak for themselves. And if we're doing a good job, then that means that you won't need to hear from us much, and that's because we are experiencing success both short and long term.
And Andrew, just finally, what's your message to supporters today ahead of a new season?
I think I would say that there is work to be done, and we are ready for that. We look forward to it. Getting this deal completed is not the finish line. We are now at the starting line. This club needs a catalyst, and Paraag and I are prepared to lead the effort to be that catalyst. So we're thrilled to be part of the club.
I just wanted to tell you a little bit about me and my style, and then a little bit about how our leadership principles and how we plan on executing the plan that Andrew talked about. So one thing that you will see from me over time is I'm a pretty open, honest, and direct person. That's just my style. So where we can share, as long as it's not compromising our competitive edge in the transfer market or different things that we do have to keep confidential, I'm generally a pretty transparent, direct person. So actually, on that note, it's Marathe, not Marathe. So for the future, so I'll just go ahead and say that out front. And you know, I fully understand and appreciate that I don't have the same deep understanding of the cultural significance of Rangers and what it means to you all, having spent your life here, and how the club essentially chose you more than you chose the club. I don't fully appreciate that as much as you all do. I will. I'm a quick learner, but what I do bring to this is a deep expertise in running football clubs and running sporting organizations and helping turn them around. I've done it twice now, once with the 49ers over the last couple of decades, and second recently with Leeds United. And I plan on executing a lot of the same blueprint in terms of executing the plan that Andrew talked about. That's exactly what I plan to do here. And you know, it is fueled by a maniacal drive to want to win, and probably an even more maniacal fear of losing, and hating to lose. That's really what drives me, and that's really what you're going to see with us. And so when you think about what exactly are 49ers Enterprises going to do, how are you going to come into the Scottish Premiership and execute a plan and deliver it to success? So let me tell you a little bit about it, because the philosophy is pretty simple. At its core, our mission is really to hire the best possible people, ideally find people that are more talented, more aggressive, more driven than you are. Find the best people, establish the right platform and culture and foundation. And that's a foundation based on a meritocracy. It's a foundation based on accountability. It's a foundation based on low ego decision making, low ego. What I mean by that is the best decisions don't have to come from the top. The best decisions can come from wherever in the club, wherever in the organization. The best ideas can come from supporters. And it doesn't matter where it comes from. If it's empirically the best thing for the club, we're going to go and execute it. So setting that right foundation. Next is providing the club with the right resources, what we need to succeed. It doesn't necessarily mean always more. It means giving them the resources to make the best decisions for the club, not just for the next year, but for building sustained success, right? And then finally, it's empowering that team that you put together, empowering that team to go out and execute, and holding them accountable, right? And so a lot of times, a lot of decisions aren't necessarily ones that Andrew and I are going to make, but we've empowered the team to go out and make those decisions, and then we're going to hold them accountable to that. And so within 49ers Enterprises, sort of our philosophy is also pretty simple. It is about making thoughtful, data-based, data-driven decisions and being very disciplined about it. It doesn't mean that we are slow to decision-making. It's actually quite the opposite. It's setting it up where you are trying to stack as many 51% decisions as you can, right? Because ultimately in sports, you can do everything you want and everything you think to succeed, but at the end of the day, the way the ball bounces, something it goes your way, something it doesn't. There's still a lot of luck involved, right? So all we are trying to do, whether it's on the pitch or commercially, is stack as many 51% decisions as we can and focus on that. And in the end, you're going to be successful more than you're not. And so it sounds pretty simple, and it is, but it's a blueprint that's worked for us in different sporting organizations, and it's one that we think will work for us here. And so we're really excited about the opportunity. Want to thank all of you for coming out today. And now I will pass it to Fraser.
Thank you for the very warm welcome. I think I'm supposed to sit, but sitting here looking out, I figured it wasn't the right way to start this relationship by us starting in a low block. The one thing that every one of us has a limited amount of is time. And so on behalf of Paraag, Fraser, Patrick, and everybody at the club, we really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us today to have this important conversation. Last October, I got a phone call, and I will never forget exactly where I was when I got the phone call, because I think it's a moment that has changed my life. And the phone call was, would you and your group have an interest in investing in Rangers? And I said, absolutely. And over the last however many months, this has been 9 months, there are a lot of different things that are attractive and fantastic about this club, but I find myself talking about 3 more often than anything else. And those 3 are first and foremost you, the supporters. It is an incredible supporter base, and it's not just the numbers. Millions of supporters, I think 600 supporter clubs worldwide. I think the club sold over 400,000 kits a year ago. So massive, massive numbers, but it's also the depth of the passion. I know that for many of you, being a supporter probably started in the womb. You were born into this, and it's something that you feel right here in any conversation you have with a supporter. So the breadth and the depth of the passion of the fans is the number one thing that I love about this club. Number 2 would... Now I'm going to be self-conscious. If you don't clap when I say something, I'm going to assume that didn't land as well. Number 2 would be Ibrox. I think of that as our castle. It is an incredibly tough place to come and play as a visiting squad, and that is fantastic because it gives us a competitive advantage. And then on the flip side, it's a magical place to be there as a supporter. So number 2 would be Ibrox itself. And 3 would be the competitions in which we play. Every year, we get to compete for the league, 2 cups, and we get to play in Europe. And those are incredibly special things. I think if you look at football clubs around Europe, most clubs would love to have one of those 3 things, and yet we are lucky enough, fortunate enough to have all 3 wrapped into one. And so those are my top 3 things why I think Rangers is so special. I mentioned the competitions, so let me be clear about our ambitions. Our ambitions, and then Paraag and I wrote a letter that was published, but I want to repeat it. Our ambition is to put the club in the position to be able to win the league and the cups and be increasingly competitive in Europe each year while operating in a financially self-sustaining manner. I want to go back and just sort of talk about the 2 nuances that are embedded in those words. So the first is I was plural, so I said titles and cups. It is not Paraag or my intent to come, try to throw some money at this, win a title, and go off into the sunset. We want cups, we want sustainable winning. So that's nuance number 1, is that this is something that is long-term. The second thing that I mentioned was financially self-sustaining. And I think that's really important, and I think everybody here knows that this club has been through some tough times financially over the last 10 years. And it is our goal to make sure that the club, over the next, not 1 year or 2 years, but over the next 10 years, is in a self-sustaining position. And so it's sustained winning and winning sustainably. Those are our ambitions. And how are we going to do that? I think there are really 3 things that are important to achieve those ambitions. The first is resources, mainly financial, but also intellectual. The second is the team. And I mean the squad on the pitch, obviously, but I also mean the team that's not on the pitch, the staff, the overall club. It is incredibly important that we continue to attract the best talent in the industry if we're going to build and rebuild the infrastructure and the culture of this great club to create that sustained winning. And the third is the plan. And I used to say strategy, but I've stopped saying strategy. Every football club has more or less the same top-line strategy. Grow revenues, reinvest in the club, buy low, sell high, right? Everybody says that. And so that's not enough. What matters is how you execute the plan. And so it's really the execution of the plan that matters. So those are the 3 things that matter: resources, our team, the people, on and off the pitch, and making sure that we have the right plan to execute that will get us to our ambitions.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.